Hi everybody, this is Talvi bringing you Act 4 of my Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia 100% growths except Python's defense LTC. Between the last video and this one, I discovered some more turn saves which I will cover in a bonus video to avoid bogging the commentary down here. Act 4 will see us covering Celica's route first because she unlocks Alm's promotion and because we want her to send Alm a set of bows since Celica herself only needs one for Leon. Speaking of Leon, we give him an EXP belt because he needs his horse for the clears coming up, and he has stat benchmarks to hit for Duma Tower anyway. We also get the majoring, which we'll be using a couple of times. We recruit Noma, a Phyllis Sage whose only relevance to this playthrough is his access to 3 range and the majoring on one map. In a more tightly optimized run, even this contribution can be covered by Bowie since he has learned Thunder by this point. The Silver Platter is for the quest. Deadman's Mire is the first of Celica's swamp maps. Swamps cost 3 move for Leon, so he needs a lot of movement skills to get him to the other side of swamps quickly. We hang on to the Fugue Shield for the duration of Act 4 because we need an extra swap item that our non-lance units can use. But while I don't do it in this run, you could trade the Fugue Shield for a golden apple, and in fact you would need to, but I'll talk more about it in the bonus video. Katria needs to be boosted 3 squares, and we do a cute little trick with Est here. Est hasn't learned swap yet, but because Leon knows swap, Est can position herself such that Leon can swap himself forward, and then Pala can trade Leon an actual weapon and then use the leather shield to swap him further ahead. But as I was saying, Katria needs to be boosted 3 squares to get to where she wants to be on this turn, which will necessitate 2 swaps and a shove. She's going to show off how good the Saunion is, since from that position she can enemy phase a number of the Arcanists who can't actually make it to 1 range of her, but they do have Mire, so a Javelin would not have worked. Katria's turn 1 position lets her pick off the former Knight of Ranai without any further assistance from our other units. She could cover the other Cantor on turn 3, but we want to feed that kill to Leon. Speaking of Leon, we actually don't want him to crit this Dreadfighter here, which is why I set its crit to be lower, because I'm flexing by trying to feed kills to Est. The only combat Est strictly needs to care about is what she needs to get to learn swap, but you know, it's funny to use Est. We clean up the remaining stragglers to conclude the map in 3 turns. The next fight is a Necrodragon skirmish, and it's a simple flyer show. We're going to one-turn it by getting our Falconites to enemy phase the Terrors. This location does respawn skirmishes, so Alm should be by a dungeon to help rig them away. Act 4 is generally not as heavy on the map spawns, with Celica's only source of mobile map spawns being the boss of the map after this. I did look into one-turning this map with that map spawn, but the squares were just a little bit off. I don't really have much to say, so you can just watch this simple one-turn. We can handle the map spawn in Dolth Keep with our hacked reliability, so we go for it. Most of the extra enemies will end up dying to Est. Dolth Keep has a fortress separated from us by a swamp, packing all sorts of enemies our flyers will have issues one-rounding, so this is going to have to be Leon's big day. Something I should mention is there's something we could have done to make the swap item trade logistics a little simpler on Celica's route, and that is forging the golden dagger to the beloved Zofia, a PRF for Celica that has swap. I don't think it would actually help save turns necessarily, but it would simplify some of the complicated swap trade shenanigans we've gotten up to. This will play an important role in this clear. We need to boost her forward 2 squares in a straight line so she can pick off a sniper while being in position to keep the other 2 snipers within the keep on the left side. You might notice a number of units had strange starting weapons. That was because the trading that I do on turn 1 would get the weapons onto the units who actually wanted to have it. It is possible to rearrange turn 1 with the help of the beloved Zofia to let Leon pick off that Arcanist on player phase, instead of what I end up doing where I bait him over and have the flunkies kill him. Katria and Pala are just gonna use their high movement to act as swap bots. We want one of them to be using either the Leather Shield or the Fugue Shield to swap instead of the Salnion, because they're going to be exposed to some Dread Fighters on enemy phase, so that they need to be able to counter at one range. This is not much to say. Celica's Act 4 maps look intimidating because of all of the terrain, but they're really nothing special. All they do is make most of our army just as irrelevant as they have been for the duration of Act 3. I saw an opportunity to get some chip with Bowie, and he finally hits level 3, letting him learn Thunder. So we want Pala to have better durability than Est over here, because right now there's a Necrodragon who's going to be in range of both of them, who we want to suicide into Est rather than going for Pala. Thankfully he does in this clear, but you could avoid this problem entirely by just not having the map spawn. Leon positioned himself there while killing the boss so that he can enemy phase a stationary Arcanist. Because Est kept the snipers on the left on turn 1, they can't reach the White Wings on turn 2. Though the Dread Fighters can, and one of them will end up going for Katria. It's a good thing Katria is fast enough to double them. And that will conclude the map in 2 turns. We now trek through the sewers of Dolth Keep and the Lost Treescape, picking up some weapons. We'll detour back to the Seabound Shrine to give Leon the resistance wells there, though they honestly do not matter, as you might guess. We'll end up at the Sage's Hamlet. We won't really be using the Grimoire Ring because our mages don't fight anymore, but we could have made use of it to kill the final boss with Fae. We unlock Orm's promotion, letting him finally become a relevant unit. Duma Gate features a mass of witches, so we'll underply everyone who we absolutely do not need for this clear. Leon and Katria will clean up the indoor sections, while Est will reach promotion by dealing with as many of the witches with the Saunion and precise positioning that we can get away with. I forgot with the exact items a little bit here, just to make sure that like I cover some of the possible witch behaviors. This is the only time in the whole game Pala uses shove, and you could get around it by forging another Soundion. So all the work we put into grinding up her shove EXP was retroactively pointless. Valentia will once more combine 2 to 3 range with precise positioning to clean up the Arcanists and a Javelin Fiend. She is out of range of the Dread Fighters. Leon needed to be boosted 3 squares to get to that spot to kill the boss on turn 1. He isn't strong enough to one round the nearby enemy fiend, but we don't need him to. I don't know why I didn't just re-record my actions without the hesitation, but I was basically trying to maximize the number of witches Est could enemy phase without having too many attacking her from one range. Fiends have the heavy armor skill, making them the late game barons of Celica's route. Leon has issues actually killing them. One thing which would help Leon kill these fiends on later maps would be having him use the Radiant Bow, which hits resistance. Max Forge Radiant Bow Leon usually can hit the stat benchmarks required to kill them, even through the heavy armor. Whereas Killer Bow Leon needs significantly higher strength benchmarks and would probably have required us to dump some of the resources we gave Est, like the EXP, I mean. The teleportation spam of the witches can be really annoying in this map. I've seen instances where like 3 witches warped down to where Celica and Gang are. But since we have so many turn wheels, we can just brute force our way into rigging those away. Pala ships her sister a one-range lance so she can deal with the 2 Dread Fighters in the north, while Leon will kill the other passive enemy on the map, the other Cantor. The Dread Fighter in the chamber where the boss and the Cantor were has a lightning sword, so he will suicide on Leon through the wall. To be clear about the Radiant Bow, we couldn't have used it on this map because we need 5 range on Leon. Also, the enemies will suicide into our units on enemy phase, and that will be Duma Gate in 2 turns. We go promote Est, who could be the last promotion on Selka's route, but she won't actually be because I go out of my way to do something a little unnecessary. Jedah is the last on-map encounter on Celica's route, and we have to pick off a bunch of fiends in the swamp alongside Jedah himself. Our flyers can kill the fiends with crits, leaving Jedah as the main problem. He's ridiculously bulky and has a gimmick where only every 4th attack he faces will damage him. The classic LTC method of killing Jedah, which I do in this run, is to have the Act 2 carry mage kill Jedah. Mei can do it with a double aura crit, while Bowie can do it with a double Sagittate crit. This requires 34 magical attack, which is significantly less than the physical benchmark required to one-round him. However, while investigating some turn saves, I discovered another solution, Radiant Bow Leon. With one extra EXP well, he could have hit that benchmark to kill Jedah with a Max Forge Radiant Bow double crit, which a better optimized run could have by this point, thanks to being smarter with the bow distribution. I'll talk more about it in the bonus video. This could save the attack wells we gave Mei at the start of the adventure, and that could translate into not needing to send the Pegasus cheese over to Celica. A more tightly optimized run could also trade in the Fugue Shield before this map, but because my Leon stats weren't up to fighting the fiends, I had to rely more heavily on my flyers and indirectly on access to swap, though I think even here I didn't need the Fugue Shield in hindsight. Radiant Bow Leon also does a much better job at killing fiends on this map. Again, apologies for faffing about with the positioning. In this clear, Noma, Leon, and Conrad will burn Jedah's invincibility so Mei can take the kill. Both Noma and Mei need the Mage Ring to actually attack Jedah. These two fiends near Pala both have javelins, which is why she can use the Saunion to take them out. Killing Jedah gets rid of the one mogul over there. That will conclude Jedah's Swamp in one turn. Duma Tower is a convenient money farming spot for Celica, so she'll send all 3 Max Forge killer bows. We give the new ones names worthy of archers who put in solid work in an LTC. Since we have a couple of minutes of my terrible menuing, I guess I might talk about peddler allocation. In a more tightly optimized run, Alm would not send his killer bow over to Celica in Act 3. And consequently that would cut out one of the peddler uses here. And also Celica would only send Alm a steel bow. She would rather have the silver bow to forge into a radiant bow to kill Jedah with. This frees up the second peddler, and depending on the exact nature of the category, The optimum use of these two peddlers is to either send 2 golden apples or to send an ambrosia and a Duma moss, which you can get one of on the first floor of Duma Tower without running into any encounters. Again, more details in the bonus video. We now switch over to Alm's route. Alm first gets his long-awaited promotion, which will give him workable bases for the rest of the game. This is what makes training him pointless. There is no way for an LTC to get above these class bases, and with hacked rigs his resistance stat doesn't really matter. We give him the resistance wells from the Sylvan Shrine because there isn't anybody else who particularly wants it anyway. Rigel Plains is the first map of Alm's Act 4 and is Faye's high point as a combat unit. We need our 2 bow knights to cover the left and right enemy squads and a bow user to handle the enemy arcanists in the center, for which we will use Alm with his newfound access to bows. This, however, leaves nobody to deal with Berkut and his goons. Most LTCs would have an extra combat unit in Mage Tobin to handle them, but we don't have that luxury, so we're gonna have to get creative. Three needs to rescue Alm forward so he can actually get to those Arcanists. And now we're going to take advantage of Faye's position where she rescued Alm to let Silk warp her forward, letting Faye enemy phase Berkut's squad. This is what Faye needed to hit her high stat benchmarks for. She needs 16 AS to double Berkut, which translates to 18 speed. And you'll notice she isn't there yet. She's going to hit it on enemy phase just right on time before Berkut goes for her. In fact, a more tightly optimized run would need to give her the 2 remaining speed wells from Thief's Shrine to hit this benchmark. This is the first map where Alm needs a 3rd swap bot, so a Saunion user can get Silk out of 3 range of one of the Mire Arcanists. Because Matilda is so buff resistance-wise, the Arcanists will choose to go for Alm instead. I'll let you watch the dominoes fall on enemy phase in this 1-turn clear. In fact, there's only one map in all of Alm's Act 4 we won't one turn, and that one is just because I missed a turn save while doing this run. The only source of map spawns in Alm's Act 4 is Nuibaba's Abode. The Xaizor map has them show up in the bottom left. This map has a lot of witches, and I really should have undeployed the irrelevant units to prevent them from tempting the witches. Remember the title of this LTC? Python did make a cameo appearance in Sluice Gate, but he's just a level 4 archer. It's time we started rectifying that. On this map, he'll fight the enemies in the top right, with Cliff getting sent in to deal with the boss in the top left, and Grey fighting the map spawns after Faye will boost him forward. There is better allocation of EXP possible in Act 4, but oh well, it didn't occur to me at the time. Python couldn't even one-shot that mercenary, so we needed him to chip before we suspend to set the killer bow to perfect hit and crit. There's really not that much to say about a lot of Alm's Act 4 maps, since our archers are mostly massacring everything. Create Strength is an important benchmark for a non-Cliff Bow Knight to hit. And that is the Bow Knight who needs to miss defense procs. In this run, I was able to get Python to hit 28 Strength on time, which is why he is the one who has a defense anti-benchmark. But in a more tightly optimized run, it's possible for Python to end up missing that benchmark, which would mean that Grey would have to be the one with a less than perfect defense growth. One of the witches will teleport away from Python to Cliff on this enemy phase, but another will go from Grey to Python, so the EXP on him won't be affected all that much. This map will end with Python at level 8, letting him promote to Sniper. I'll let you watch this one turn clear play out. We head back to promote Python. Fear Mountain is the only map in Alm's Act 4 that won't be a one-turn clear, and that's because I was just short of being able to pull it off with the EXP distribution I wanted in this run. I'll show it off in the bonus video. Instead, I triggered the map spawn to pump more EXP into Python, with Cliff getting a little extra as well. Cliff will solo the entire top part of the map, while Python will handle the right. We also want Grey to get his last round of Leather Shield combat, so he can learn Swap for the next map. Python is very much banking on hacked rigs, since he needs to kill a whole bunch of enemies down there with his crummy stats. The killer bow really carries him through his training arc. In fact, in the more optimized route, Alm's crew only have one forged killer bow to pass around between them until very late, and Python monopolizes it whenever he fights until he gets to Bow Knight. Python will clean up the bottom over 2 turns, completing the map in that time. He could have missed all of his defense procs as an archer to meet the anti-benchmark in this run. Nuibaba's Abode is the final map with the map spawn we'll be doing in this playthrough. And in fact, it's a map that is easier to LTC with a sniper than it is with a bow knight. The key advantage that a sniper has on this map is that they can be warped onto the mountain tiles beneath Nuibaba's mansion and can just walk on the mountain tile to get into the mansion proper, whereas a bow knight would need to be warped directly in, which would require the warp to happen from further up, which would be annoying with our limited swap resources. Instead, we can warp Python in without requiring any swaps on Fae or Silk, letting us reserve our swaps to let Cliff and Alm deal with the map spawn enemies. The boss has a mage ring, giving her a ridiculously high range, but she doesn't move, which is why we can just enemy phase her. The only passive enemy up there is a Cantor, who Python is going to take out on player phase, and everybody else is simply going to die on enemy phase to him. Cliff will take the map spawn enemies in the north, which requires him to get 2 swaps to get in range of one of the witches. And Alm needs 2 swaps to be in range of all the Arcanists on the right. I once again could have undeployed some unnecessary units. Since there are some witches among the map spawns, so tempting them less is a good idea. Smith kills that one particular witch because she actually could go for Python, which would be a waste of EXP, as you'll see. Once again, let the dominoes fall on this one turn clear. We raid the mansion to get a few items, find some peddlers, and recruit Tatiana, the final EXP target for this playthrough. Tatiana joins as level 1 cleric and learns warp at level 8, which we need to save turns on every single one of Alm's remaining maps, save the last one in Act 4. Thankfully, there is some room to grind her up. There are 2 fixed encounters in the Fear Shrine, which she can train in, alongside the Sylvan Shrine EXP wells, which we haven't touched. We also have a whole bunch of speed boosters left over, and the only other person who would even consider taking them would be Alm for his solo maps in Act 5. But you don't strictly need Alm to double those enemies when you have hacked criticals anyway. We go off to promote Python. Python wants 3 more strength procs to do his late game job, but if he doesn't get 3 strength procs, which would happen if something which I described in the bonus video were to transpire, then Gray would be the one who would handle that particular job. We make a quick visit to the village to complete a quest. We head back to give Tatiana 2 speed wells and an EXP well. This is key to letting her one-round the enemies in the first fight in the Fear Shrine. We don't want to give her all the EXP wells immediately in order to maximize her EXP gain. Tatiana takes the mage ring so she can counter at 1 to 4 range. The Duma's Apostle fight is the first fixed encounter here. Tatiana needed the EXP well to kill the Barons, and she needed the EXP well and the speed wells to kill the Duma's Apostle with a double Seraphim crit. Gossamer Hair is part of a quest line on Celica's route that ends with getting an exotic spice. Mom kills the sniper since Tatiana can't counter him, and Faye will yank him out of there so that the rest of the enemies will all go for her. We press end turn, and she will earn a total of 2 levels on this map in this 1 turn clear. Prepare yourself for a montage of me picking up all of the items in here. Something I didn't acknowledge in the Dragon Shrine earlier is that when the final room is laid out like this, it's because the well is a resurrection well, which we have no need for in our run. There are a total of 2 resurrection fountains on Alm's route and 1 resurrection fountain on Celica's route for a total of 9 potential revivals. The first Duma's Apostle fight is necessary to actually get the items in the Field Shrine, like the Speed Ring, and the Blessed Bow, both of which are pretty important. The Blessed Shield is mutually exclusive with the Silver Shield. It's not really necessary, and in fact I screwed up some stuff with the save files, which is why it won't show up in my convoy until later on. Though I don't think it would even be noticeable given how much fluff I cut out in this part of the run. Hexlock shield fight is the second fixed encounter, and we want to give Tatiana 2 more levels here. To do this, we need to warp her in and kill the Cantor, the only passive enemy on this map, but we need to pick off the Dread Fighters and the Witches, since Tatiana isn't strong enough to actually kill them. Everyone else on this map can be killed by majoring Tatiana. She does end up overshooting level 6 by 1 kill, so maybe I could have had Alm kill one of the mercenaries. That will be the Duma's Apostle fight and the Hexlock Shield fight in 1 turn each. We run back to the Sylvan Shrine to give Tatiana the remaining EXP wells to have her hit level 8, becoming our second warper. She actually has better magic than Silk, meaning she will do the longer range warps moving forward. The Zeke map is the last map on Almstrad we can do before Celica needs to clear Duma Tower, and for the longest time it was believed that in full recruitment it had to be two-turned because Zeke's crew are much too tempting as targets for Jerome's army, and the inferior stats of Zeke's army make it difficult for them to kill Jerome's underlings. However, we are going to pull off the one-turn with the help of our 3 Bow Knights, both our Warpers and our Rescue User. The key idea is to pick up as many problematic enemies as possible on player phase, and use our formation to force as many enemies as we can to suicide into us. The Gold Knights are basically impossible for Zeke's crew to take out, as is the boss, and the Gold Knights are basically impossible for Zeke's crew to take out. And the boss is a Gold Knight too. And the Bow Knights are difficult to counter. We can't kill all of them, thanks to only having 4 attacks, but we can wall off a couple of Jerome's paladins from reaching Zeke's crew, meaning they will suicide into us on enemy phase. Python needs to be a Bow Knight to contribute on this map by killing a Gold Knight. On Almstrad, we could save on a lot of the leather shield trades that we do in the run just by forging more Saunians, since pretty much every lance on Almstrad is just Saunian forging raw material, except for the Rider's Bane. I have our Bow Knights use Hunter's Volley where they can in an attempt to maybe increase the chances that they would get targeted by the enemies. But it didn't really accomplish much in the end, since Zeke's crew really are so weak that our 100% growth units completely outclass them. Exactly 3 of Jerome's army will go for Zeke's crew. 1 of the Paladins, the Arcanist, and 1 of the Bow Knights. All of them need to be killed with crits by Zeke's crew. To do this, we are going to have to do something which we haven't done in quite a while, which is a retroactive weapon edit. We need to set Zeke's crew's lances and bows to have close to but not exactly 100 crit, because there's a quirk of the AI where if it actually can pull 100 crit, it will choose to not attack instead of going for the guaranteed crit. I'm not sure why this is, and it's definitely behavior that would only be encountered in a situation like this where we're hacking crit on weapons. The Baron is quite beefy, but thankfully Zeke has the oomph to take him out with a single crit. That is the map in one turn. We visit the Rigelian village to recruit Zeke and pick up some items. There is one important quest here. An NPC will give you an ambrosia, the defense boosting item, in exchange for a yogurt, an orange, and a Duma moss. The Duma moss is what limits how much his services can be called upon. There are only 3 available during the main campaign. One of them is in Act 5, too late for our needs. We will acquire one a little later in Act 4. And an optimized all-fixed encounters run would send one over from Salika's route that can be obtained on the first floor of Duma Tower. Oranges, of course, we've seen many of them over the course of this run, even just on Alms route, so there is no shortage of them. The yogurts require us to go grind for them in Fear Shrine. Specifically, they drop from barrels. Since Salika is about to enter Duma Tower, we go to hand off a couple of weapons to her and the gossamer hair via Peddler. Salika cleans up her side of the map before she goes off to conclude her Act 4. The gossamer hair we sent over can be used to obtain a Dagon fillet by giving it to the skilled angler and waiting a couple of days. This Dagon fillet can be traded to the royal chef in exchange for an exotic spice, which is just a little bit of extra gold. It's not strictly needed, of course, but it's nice to help people out, isn't it? Salika is now going to grind up a ton of money to forge her relevant weapons up. So to be transparent, The grinding for money in Duma Tower was actually done entirely legitimately. It took me a few hours to get all of it done. But the money grinding I did earlier on Celica's route was done by hacking the dungeon item drop tables to drop gold marks because at that particular point I did not have the inclination to sit around for hours on end cutting coral. And I also guessed that actually trying to grind the money legitimately would probably blind me to some turn save possibilities, which is what ended up happening on Alms Route actually. Uh, there is a turn save in Act 3 of Alms Route that I missed pretty much because I could not conceive of forging the weapon needed for it since I had money at the back of my mind, even though I knew consciously that I have access to infinite money. I'll, of course, show that turn save off in the bonus video. I in fact end up overforging in this segment. I forged the Blessed Sword up to the Mercurius, but I never actually need to use it. You'll see me equipping it once on May, since I do promote her with the leftover EXP boosters on Celica's route. But it is possible on the one clear where May is relevant in Duma Tower to make sure that she does not need to have a sword equipped. Somewhat insultingly, there are a few yogurts on Celica's route, but Alm's route, as far as I'm aware, never has them just handed to you. I guess there's the Craving Cute subquest in the Forest Village, where you can save scum to get the girl to give you a yogurt. And in the context of a run like this, there are enough items that you can trade to her that you can with a little bit of safe scumming pull that off and also get the other nice items that she gives, like a cog and a fruit of life. I just didn't think to do that in this playthrough. If I had just hacked gold marks to drop, I could probably have maxed out the Gradivis and the Mercurius that I forged because it makes such a huge difference grinding for money normally versus grinding for it by just hacking the dungeon drops. To kind of explain, I just changed the silver marks which drop in dungeons to gold marks. Though in fact there is an item in the game's code, the gold purse, which is worth 5 gold marks, and that would definitely be the fastest way to grind for money in a context like this if you didn't want to just straight up edit your save file. And here we go off to hand out the EXP boosters we have to promote May. The last stat boosting well for us to allocate out are the defense boosters here. I guess this is a good chance to talk about how there are two different grades of stat boosters. There are the stat boosting wells, which are exclusive to whoever is on the route where they're present, and there are, well, with the exception of alms wells in Act 1, which Celica can technically take, and there are the fungible stat boosting items, which are more useful in the sense that they can be transferred over to the other route via the peddlers. Duma Tower is full of stat boosting wells, and I just hand them out pretty much arbitrarily. I don't really pay much attention to who I give them to, because at this point our units have already hit or can hit the stat benchmarks they need to just from the fights in Duma Tower. I cut out a lot of the stealth segments in Duma Tower because the length of the video was getting obnoxiously long, and I figured, okay, like there are better players to watch if you want to see how you sneak past the gargoyles in the tower, for instance. And it's time for the first fight in Duma Tower. This one has a fiend boss who Leon has issues killing, and we couldn't even use the radiant bow to deal with him because of the two dread fighters who Leon also needs to kill. But thankfully, he's the only fiend on the map, so Leon can just afford to two-round him. There are two dread fighters who are not in Leon's range, and we just send a couple of white wings to handle them. In general, Duma Tower is mostly the Leon and White Wing show. And it is possible to clear all of Duma Tower without ever requiring all three of the White Wings to face enemy phase combat. Leon's only real stat benchmark for the rest of Duma Tower is making sure that on a future map where there are going to be a couple of feeds that he can enemy phase them. If we weren't flexing as much with Est, Leon would have exactly zero issues with hitting all of his stat benchmarks. And now we have the Necrodragon fight. This can be dealt with by just Leon, who needs to be on the left so that he can enemy phase the one Bow Knight, and one of the White Wings to deal with the gargoyles on the right. All of the maps in Duma Tower are going to be one-turn clears, if it wasn't obvious already. Once again, the presence of Bow Knights forces Leon to stay on the left side. And a single one of the White Wings can handle the enemies on the right who aren't in range of Leon. The final floor of Duma Tower has attack wells which I don't bother getting to because actually sneaking to them was very annoying with the way the enemies were behaving. This is the map with multiple fiends that Leon wanted to hit a strength benchmark for. On the left we have a couple of annoying witches and a dread fighter. The reason the Mercurius is used in this run is just so the Dreadfighter doesn't get any funny ideas about attacking me, but you could slightly retool this clear to not require Mercurius by just having like the Dreadfighter get killed on player phase. That sniper is the only really passive enemy on this map. The moguls are actually aggressive, but obviously our White Wings can't deal with that sniper, so Leon has to use his player face action on him, which is why he needs to enemy face the fiends. And this fight will conclude Duma Tower, completed in its entirety in 4 turns. We're back to Almshot to finish the rest of Act 4. Rigel Falls is the first map where Tatiana will help save a turn. Over an incomplete recruitment run, that is. We need 3 Bow Knights and Alm to kill all the enemies on this map in 1 turn. Python will handle the enemies in the bottom right. Cliff and Grey will handle the squad near the boss, including the passive Cantor. and Faye will boost Arm forward to handle a few units above the South squad. This is a map where the Radiant Bow would be very useful. The bow knights on the map do not have 5 range, meaning Cliff could have a much easier time killing all the barons, including the boss with it. There's actually no need for Grey to put himself in range of the barons because they have javelins, so there is a square where Cliff can be in range of both of the barons down south, which in fact is where he ends up. With Hunter's Volleys +1 might, he's just barely able to kill Magnus, but like I said, the Radiant Bow would make it much easier for him to kill with the hacked double crit. Bow Knight is the only enemy down there who has more than 3 range, so that's who Alm will pick off on player phase. The rest of the enemies will just all die to our bows. That'll be Rigel Falls in 1 turn. We hand out the remaining speed wells in the Fear Shrine to Alm since nobody else needs them anymore. We then visit the secret shrine, primarily for the defense boosting wells if I'm being honest, which we will give to Faye. The mystery of Faye and Python's defense has hopefully kept the viewers intrigued as they watched this LTC, and we are almost at the moment of truth. This is where we get the Duma Moss to make the ambrosia. I didn't get the Duma Moss in Duma Tower, but it was in the same area as the Miller statue. We go back to the Rigelian village for two important items. We want to cook the ambrosia, and we want to forge a longbow. The longbow is a 2 to 4 range bow that we need for the next map to give one of our bow knights 6 range. Technically, the Parthia's combat art could also accomplish this, but the blessed bow, which is the base to force the Parthia, shows up far too late for any of our bow users to learn the combat art associated with it. Now it's on to Last Bastion. Last Bastion is the answer to the question, why does Shadows of Valentia have an anti-benchmark? The map is full of bow knights and has a number of barons and Slade at the top of the map. We need 2 bow knights to handle the barons and Slade at the top, but this leaves all the arcanists and some of the bow knights in the other columns unaccounted for. We have a 3rd bow knight who can use the longbow's 6 range to pick off one of the arcanists on the extreme columns, and enemy phase 2 more alongside the bow knights by the center. This leaves 2 arcanists on the left, and this is where Faye and Python's respective defense stats come in. Faye with the mage ring can counter and kill the arcanist, but the bow knights will as a result want to attack her since she can't counter. The way we circumvent this is by dumping all of our defense boosters into her and having Python miss some of his defense level ups. In this run, you'll notice Python didn't actually miss any defense level ups, and I instead show off this clear by having Python's killer bow give him -5 defense. Now, this might seem kind of like, oh, like this doesn't integrate cleanly into the run, but if you go back and watch all the previous clears, there was never a situation where a physical enemy needed to choose between attacking Python and attacking one of our other units. So this does integrate into the run just fine. I just didn't want to redo everything starting from like the end of Act 3 just to show off this one clear, because as you can imagine, with all of the weapon editing and planning that went into this run, I was very exhausted by this point, so I was definitely cutting some corners. Gray needs 2 swaps to get to the square from which he can 6 range the arcanist in the rightmost column. Ruthan and Cliff need to be warped by Silk and Tatiana to actually get up to the barons, because they need to get up right in the face of one of the barons to be within 5 range of the other baron that they need to deal with. Ruthan actually just barely hit the strength benchmark to kill the baron on player phase with Hunter's Volley, and a level up he gets on enemy phase will help him just barely hit the strength benchmark to kill the other baron on enemy phase. If Python misses the strength benchmark, then what you can do is you can switch around the jobs of Python and Grey, which would change the playthrough into a 100% growth except Grey's defense run. Because the strength benchmark to handle Mueller, the boss bow knight down south, and the arcanist is definitely far lower than the strength benchmark for handling the barons, especially when we have hacked crits. Like, I didn't even forge the longbow's might up. It's at its baseline of 2 might right now. If I had forged the longbow up to the point where I could give it a name, I would definitely have named it the Donovan. Enjoy watching the rest of the enemies die, and that will be last Bastion completed in 1 turn. The last map of Act 4 is a simple kill boss, and as you can imagine, it's trivial. We will warp Alm so he can take a kill for some EXP, and send in Cliff to kill Rudolph for an easy 1-turn clear. She was almost at her next level up, so I just let her get it. It's irrelevant. She's not going to do any fighting for the rest of this playthrough, and it's not even like she hit a new even number of magic for more rescue range. Python is also not gonna fight anything else for the rest of the run, so his incorrect defense stat is not going to matter. We pick up a few items in Rigel Castle, and that will be the end of Act 4.